If you're growing food, you may be battling pests.
Pests is in your garden because you have a problem.
So what attracts them?
When plants have more yellow in them, the pests like aphids and whitefly, they can see them from miles away and they will come to them like a spotlight.
How do we spot them?
Look at how we see this webbing and these holes. Look, boom, that guy right there. You see him moving?
And what is the best organic way to deal with them?
So just because it's organic doesn't make it the right choice or safe.
We go to the experts.
Healthy soil grows healthy plants.
Hey there, if you're growing your own food, you're likely dealt with some issues in your garden. Especially if you're growing organically, you're gonna find some aphids, whiteflies, caterpillars, snails, and other issues. But you wanna deal with them organically, because if not, you would be spraying, right? Or buying from the supermarket. We wanna find out how to identify those problems in your garden and how to deal with them organically in an effective manner. That's why we're here at, look at that, Tree Amigos Growers in Davie with Jason. How are you, Jason?
Feeling grateful today. How about yourself, Miriam?
I am very happy to be here with you.
Awesome.
So Tree Amigos, let's start by Tree Amigos. Tree Amigos is a play on three. Is there three of you?
No, there's just two of us. You're the third.
Oh, I love it. I'm
Yeah.
the Three Amigos.
But now there's three. Originally started with just two of us, and everyone said, who's the third? And we say it's you.
Okay, I love that.
But Tree Amigos came out because we grow the tree's friends, which is the plants that help to support an ecosystem. Today we're going to talk a little bit about building soil and how everything functions as a whole. And also because we're growing you, your tree's friends. If you know how to take care of trees, then that's the goal in life.
Now, why did you guys decide to start an organic growing?
I mean, that goes back to when I was a little kid, when I realized, you mean I could feed people with chemicals or feed people without chemicals? For me, it was a no-brainer. But the reason why we created Tree Amigos is because, and really is a big food issue in our area with access to farmland and access to local farms. As a local farmer, we kept losing our land that we were leasing because it was 200 grand an acre around here. And now it's up to 500 grand. But anyways, since we couldn't afford it, we realized we had to start teaching people how to grow their own food, right? We looked at the big issues in South Florida. One was access to land. All the old farmland that was once Everglades turned to houses. And then those people in those houses didn't know where to get their food from. So once us as farmers lost the land, people would come to us and say, where are we getting our local produce? So we realized if we teach you how to grow your own food, you become resilient. You don't depend on anyone else but your neighbors. And hopefully if things happen, you can help each other out. And we take the farmland back. Because if your land was once farmland at one time, whether in a balcony or whatever, it doesn't matter. But since we started tracking in 2020, we've helped plant 75 acres of organic gardens in people's backyards. We didn't do it, it's just teaching like this.
Amazing, I love that. Growing community, I love that. Now, growing organically is so important. Tell me about, chemicals. Everybody's like, oh, chemicals are so bad, but why are they bad?
I mean, I'm a little nerdy, so forgive me, I might get nerdy here, but everything has a chemical in it. Even plants are made up of chemicals. So I know that as organic growers, we use that word chemicals as this big, dirty thing. But really what we're gonna look at is what sort of these compounds are synthesized and manufactured in labs and how they affect the soil and the plants. So for instance, let's say chemical fertilizers, right? If I was to go feed my soil with chemical fertilizers, the nutrients, now science is intelligent. Science, we know what the plants need, or a little bit of what the plant needs. So we go ahead and put this chemical down, the plant immediately uptakes it. I want you to ask yourself, would you rather have a diet of whole foods, apples, fruits, veggies, meats, whatever you eat, or would you rather be hooked up on an IV and that IV be dripping nutrients into you? It's the same difference when we use chemical compounds to feed up our plants. There's synthesized nutrients that you can get into the hospital if you were feeling sick yourself. And what happens, the plant immediately takes that up. And that doesn't seem so bad if you're just thinking about, oh, it's getting all the minerals plants need. Well, we zoom out and realize, one, we don't know everything that plants need. And two, the way the plants naturally get that is through a process in the soil food web because everything works together.
So when we're talking about working together, we're talking about working with nature, right? And identifying pests and...
Why are pests even showing up in your garden?
Why are they showing up in your garden?
Right, so this is what's really important to realize. Pests have a role in nature. We should be happy they're here. They're showing us information. Yeah, they're a pain in our butt, but once again, we have to zoom out to see why they're here, right? Pests, the way they see is different than you and I. They see on ultraviolet lenses, right? And so what they're looking for right now is bright colored yellow. A lot of pests see the color yellow and some see blue. You put yellow and blue together, what do it make? Green, the color of your plants. So when plants have more yellow in them, the pests like aphids and whitefly, they can see them from miles away and they will come to them like a spotlight. And so that's especially something to really look after. The plants are more yellow usually when they're nutrient deficient, their stress is going on. So the reason why pests are really important is because if a plant is at a place in nature, it's okay. Nature has a plan for the ecosystem to move forward always. A pest is gonna come through, it's gonna eat your plant, it's gonna poop it under the ground, and whatever weed seed that's gonna grow better than your plant, it's gonna come up and take over that space. Why? Because it's adapted there, one, and number two, the microorganisms that are living with that plant are actually changing the soil ecosystem for the future. So right, you have to always realize a pest is in your garden because you have a problem. The problem's the plant's not healthy, there's something wrong with the soil, it's out of season, right? Or it's a watering issue going on it. And so once you can identify why that's happening, you can start to build the solutions that don't involve spraying something on them.
All right, so let's start with the first pest on your garden list, beetles that make these holes, right?
So for beetles, they're honestly one of the biggest pains in the butt. They're maybe my number one or number two most nemesis bug. So the first thing I do is decide if I even need to do anything. Is it a few holes throughout the plant? Nah, it's not. I'm not losing crop from it, so I'm not gonna worry about it. Now, if the plant's being blasted, like holes all throughout it, yeah, that's a problem because now I can't do photosynthesis properly. So now I have to respond. Organic ways to respond is one, cover it with netting, insect barrier netting. You gotta be careful in our region, it's just insect netting because certain nettings also can raise the temperature up for frost. So you gotta go lightweight with whatever we do here, right? Number two, you have to realize beetles fly. So if I just spray my plant here, it doesn't matter, they're gonna fly into here. So really what I'm trying to do is I wanna kill the larvae down, and I'm gonna do that by treating the area, as biggest areas I could possibly can, my entire yard, my neighbor's yard if they even let me, everywhere with beneficial nematodes. These beneficial nematodes are microscopic insects that will eat the larvae and prevent them from being adults.
And where do we get that? How do you do that?
That is something that you would look up online. You gotta buy them from a manufacturer because they're organisms that if someone does them wrong, they won't be effective. So look online for a good reputable source.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And the other thing you can do for beetles is you can use something called pyganic. That comes from a flower, chrysanthemum flower specifically. It's not something that I really recommend to ever do unless you're about to lose your crop and you can protect it from bees and other beneficial insects, because just because it's organic, it can kill bees, right? And your neem oil you use, yeah, that can affect bees too. So just because it's organic doesn't make it the best thing.
Number two pest.
Caterpillars, right? Caterpillars are really simple to deal with. And honestly, there's a lot of them. And so we have to think about how they came here. First, a moth, maybe a butterfly, flew and laid its eggs on this leaf. And that egg hatched into a baby insect. Now you gotta ask yourself, is this a beneficial caterpillar? If it is, let it eat your plant. If it's just an agricultural pest like pickle worm or cucumber worm on these zucchini plants, then we're gonna treat that and do something with it. And you could be looking at this plant here and see all these holes, but look under your leaf and say, hey, I see nothing here. There's no bugs under here. And I'm gonna tell you, ha, 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 ha. Yes, there is, right? Let's look where we see. You see, here's the one. Look at how we see this webbing and these holes. Look, boom, that guy right there. You see him moving?
Oh,
see how small he is?
Look at him hiding there.
And you see that one right there too? You probably didn't notice it right next to it. So you have to relax your eyes. You gotta play
like
those.
The veins in the
Yeah. And these ones too, I found it before we looked because it was pretty easy. You'll usually find an edge of your leaf rolled up. That's what webworms do, like these pickle worms. So you can usually find them in there. So just relax your eyes, look for them, they're here. Even if you can't see them. Look how small that is next to my finger.
Wow.
Right?
Yep,
So
I see him.
you look for the symptoms and I guarantee you they're below. You just gotta learn what you're looking for.
So you look underneath the plant, underneath the leaf.
See that little guy right there? Look how small it is on my finger.
So tiny. So what can you do about them?
Okay, so the first things that we can do is when we plant our plants, especially zucchinis and cucumbers, they're always gonna get caterpillars. So you can plant your plant with insect netting. So that way the moths can't lay their eggs on your plants anymore. So the first thing to do is barrier to keep the insects away. The second thing we can do, which is really super safe, it's honestly one of the best options I love to give to people for anything, is BT. It only works with caterpillars. Specifically the BT that works for caterpillars you have to use. And what this does is once the caterpillar eats it, they stop digesting and they die. This BT stands for Bacillus thuringiensis. It's a bacteria that's derived from the soil. It's totally safe, it's around us all the time. If you're not a caterpillar and you eat it, it's not gonna hurt you. If you spray a butterfly flying around with it, it's not gonna hurt it. Spray a bee, anything, it won't hurt it. Only if the caterpillar eats it. So don't put it on your butterfly plants, but definitely put it on your cucumbers and zucchinis. Another issue you can find is with your tomato plants, and I'm gonna show you another way that we can keep them off, right behind us right here. You know how I said you could create a barrier with an insect netting? Well, this year we had a major fruit worm problem on our tomatoes, so we started bagging them all up. Actually, look right below you down here. That one's a little closer. You see this tomato right here inside the bag, right? So it got split. That's not a bug. That's because someone left the irrigation on for 24 hours.
Too much water.
Pop, exactly. So now we were getting all these holes in the fruit. We weren't getting anything. So I could have had the team go out and spray BT once a week. We said, no, let's not do that. Let's just bag the fruit. No more issues. So remember, barrier or treat. We created a barrier here. So now the caterpillars can't get inside.
Beautiful.
Number 3, which should really be number 1 because it's the biggest pain in the butt, with beetles being second, nematodes. So here we have a nice, beautiful purple carrot, right?
Beautiful.
And if we look on this outside, that's what these hairs are. So nematodes are microscopic organisms. We're not going to ever see them with our eyes. We're going to see symptoms on the plant, right? And what nematodes do is, imagine you're drinking through a straw and all of a sudden you got a boba stuck in it or some ball stuck in it. It just stops. That's what nematodes do. They block up your little roots and they steal the nutrients from the plant so the plant can't get it. They're even so smart that they send hormones to the plant so the plant takes nutrients out of its leaves back to the root to where that nematode is to kill your plant. So the reason why this used to be my biggest hated microbe in the ground is because you could kill it right here and treat the area and it's just gonna come right back in. And so
How can you tell though
how can I tell? Well, the reason
that
why
they're there? Because they're microscopic. So
They're
how do you see them?
So your plants, the best way to tell is by your plants looking weak. So you got good soil, you're feeding your plants, they look like they're wilting, they look like they don't have nutrients, and you can't figure out why, but you're doing everything right. If you're not sure you're doing right, it might not be nematodes. If you are sure you're doing everything right, it's a good chance it's nematodes. The way to know you actually have them, you can only see it on the roots. You have to physically pull the plant out of the ground. And you're gonna find roots of balls, brown, all messed up. Your carrot roots, when you pull these out, they get really hairy like that. You see how hairy these are?
Yes.
And if we look really close, we can see the bumps right here. See, like carrots shouldn't have these bumps on the side right here. And if we look at these little roots, we can see little balls, tiny, tiny. You see that little teeny ball there? Where my fingernail is? Mm-hmm. Right, so that's pockets of nematodes inside there feeding from the plant.
Those are really small, but I mean, some plants that you pull out, you'll see lots of little balls. And
Yeah,
sure.
it all depends on how long it's been affected for, right? That's why these carrots are stunted. They're not going to get bigger than this because the nematodes are doing the whole thing on them.
And what can you do about them?
This, you must treat the soil. So you can, grow plants are not susceptible to nematodes. So look up online, there's so many crops out there that aren't. But more than likely, you want to grow tomatoes, you want to grow peppers, you want to grow carrots, you want to grow cucumbers, and they all are susceptible to nematodes. So you must focus on building soil. Healthy soil grows healthy plants. Microbes are a microscopic organism. If you have the right microbes in your ground, they will balance that out. So it's a multi-step process, really. You want to cover crop your soil every summertime with things that kill nematodes. You want to use lots of good organic compost, and I'm not talking about cow manure that comes in a bag at the store. That's not good compost. I'm talking real living compost. You want to inoculate, specifically put stuff on your plants, roots that will protect it from bad things around. Nematodes are a big challenge, but find your local organic grower and ask them how they deal with it in their field.
What kind of plant can I grow during the summer, cover crop, that'll help combat nematodes?
Great question. So as organic farmers, diversity is key. If you plant just one plant, you're not going to cover all your bases, right? But I will tell you this, in the nematode control cover crops that we use on this farm, we use things like sun hemp, specific variety of cowpea, sesame. We use a nematode radish. Those are the 4 things that come off the top of my head are good to use. But specifically on our farm, we have a blend of cover crops to help to battle nematodes. Every year our garden gets even better and we can grow bigger crops for longer, and the nematodes get less and less, which is a good sign for us.
That's nematode damage?
Yeah.
Because they're like wilted, it looks wilted. That's nematodes.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
So you can shot that as a B-roll.
Yeah, or I can catch you eating your carrot.
Come on, I'm not supposed to know I just ate it without washing it.
That's exactly why you ate it. Mm-hmm. Number 4.
aphids. So aphids, they come in many different stages. One, they look like these teeny little white specks. That's the babies. Teeny, teeny, tiny. Two, they start to grow bigger, and they become different colors. Right now we have this green aphid right here. You see that light color? These are suckers. Yep, they're sucking away from your plants and stealing the juices. And the worst part is they spread viruses. So that's why they're a big issue. Not just because they're sucking the nutrients, but they're spreading viruses. Now, the beginning of the video, we talked about your pests come first because they're gonna eat your plant. That's their food. After the pests show up, the predators show up. So on this plant right now, I'm seeing these little tan bugs that look like little seeds. Well, I know these aren't seeds. This is actually the aphidious wasp. If you ever seen the movie Alien, you remember that scene with the larva, where the alien pops out the chest? Mm-hmm. Well, that's what this guy is doing. A wasp laid its egg. This wasp is tiny. It's a 1/16 of an inch. It's called the aphidious wasp. So it will never hurt you. It only eats aphids. It lays its egg into the aphid, and the larva then hatches inside it, eats it from the inside out. Once it eats through this aphid, it's going to sting and lay 200 more eggs and 200 more aphids. So your first single one of these will make 200 more. Then that's 200 times 200 times another 200. So pretty much on this farm, I don't worry about aphids. These guys take care of me along with the ladybugs, but these are my best ones.
And they come by themselves.
They come by themselves because we've created an ecosystem for them. We've had to create the ecosystem. So we grow native flowers, things like blanket flower and coreopsis around the gardens, those sort of plants, and calendulas, which are non-native. Milkweeds are fantastic for this reason. We grow them all around the gardens to help become habitats to the adults. The adults drink nectar of flowers, so they need the flowers. And then they need aphids to be able to lay their larvae in. So that's why I love growing milkweed, because the milkweed, I'm sorry milkweed growers, but that oleander aphid doesn't affect my vegetables. So I got those milkweeds with the orange aphids all around, and guess what? These guys, these aphidious wasps and these ladybugs are just killing off all those aphids. And then so when I get an aphid outbreak in my garden like this vegetable, I don't gotta do a thing.
Now that is a cabbage. Can you eat that anyway?
Yeah. Just extra protein.
Right.
Don't tell your husband. That's all.
How do you treat them if you don't have the beneficials?
Good. Okay, so your first thing you should be doing is go out and start creating an ecosystem around you for beneficials to come to. But to treat this, spray it off with a hose, right? To just blast them off and break the cycle up, that could be enough. There's certain organic insecticides we can use, like soaps, insecticidal soaps. Now, don't just be using dish soap to go spray on that, because just like you wouldn't put dish soap on your face to wash it with because it would dry you out too much, these have natural waxes that dish soap will strip. So specifically get an insecticidal soap. There's also certain funguses called Beauveria bassiana that you can buy as well. That's what we use here. And when we mix that with water and put it on the aphid, it actually turns the aphid into a fungus. Right? So that's usually more commercial scale stuff. The soaps might be more accessible to you, unless you want to drop a couple $100 on those funguses, but still.
And the soap is just a couple of drops in a gallon of water?
Bingo. But the soap, you know, us at Tree Amigos, we're always going to recommend getting an insecticidal soap that's designed for that. In the back of the package will tell you how much you use for that one right there. Because remember, if you use just a couple of drops of dish soap, there's a good chance, you're killing them, but you're also stripping away waxes that protect your plant from other things too. So that's why we don't like to use that stuff.
Number 5.
All right, number 5 is whiteflies. And so first off, you gotta understand, just like everything, there's multiple stages of whitefly. Let's take a close look. Okay, here we have these little black ones. You see the little black ones? That's the nymphs. They're gonna turn to the adults that fly. Right now they were laid by eggs and they've hatched, and now they're sucking away your plant and spreading viruses. Then they turn to adults and fly and lay on your plants again, on another plant. Right, so there's a couple ways that we combat this. Well, first off, if we have a major outbreak, we're gonna set up white sticky traps to identify and try to collect some of those adults. It's gotta be the yellow sticky traps, because that's what the whitefly see is yellow, right? This whole nursery, we had to hunt all over the place. We've gotten our plants so good, we really have whitefly issues anymore. It used to be a major problem for us. It's not a problem at all. But as we can see, this is really hard, have a lot of whitefly. So one thing we love to do, if it's just 1 or 2 plants or not that much, take a wet cloth before we have to use any chemicals, and just wipe them off. You see how much of the babies I just killed off right there? Boom. And with a wet cloth, they come off so easier. And then we can treat it if we have to treat.
How?
So the way that we kill whitefly is either by suffocation or by other microbes. We suffocate with an oil like horticultural oil or insecticidal soap. And so whenever we're using a soap or an oil, we gotta understand we're suffocating the insect and the plant. So you gotta do it on a day that's not too hot, or you gotta do it 2 hours before 85 degrees on a clear day, because you want it to dry off the plant as quick as possible, right? You're trying to kill the insect, have it dry off so your plant doesn't get burned, right? And so that's why we use those sort of soaps. Another thing you can also use is another microbe, Beauveria bassiana, will help consume these up really well. Our biggest thing was learning how to get our soil inoculated. If you get a lot of peppers with this issue, you should really be thinking about planting your peppers beforehand and tomatoes with mycorrhiza funguses on the root systems, because you got to get the plant healthy before it goes in the garden. I think that's the biggest reason why we don't have a bad whitefly issue over here anymore. It's because how we treat our plants.
And let's talk about that to wrap up. I want to talk about the health of the soil. You guys focus a lot on the health of the soil.
Yeah.
A lot of people ask me, what should I be spraying on my plants? I'm like, if your soil is healthy, you don't have to. Explain that to me a little.
Well, it's no different than you and I. So our big belief is healthy soil grows healthy plants, right? And it's because if you think about yourself, just whenever you have a question, act, how would I naturally handle this, right? If you're eating well, you're sleeping well, you have good life, you have a good roof over your head, you got friends and family that make you feel good, you're a lot less likely to be stressed, which is a lot less likely to get sick, right? No different than your soil. Your soil is the gut for the plant. So if you're just using any sort of soil that wasn't adapted to this area, more than likely your plant's not going to do well in there. Actually, let's back up and say nature has many different structures of soil, right? And so South Florida has great soil if you're an oak tree or a palm tree, but not the best for peppers, right? And so South Florida soil is really young. So we want to do whatever we can to adapt it to make it more mature. And that deals with a whole nother slew of lessons when it comes to microbes in the soil, to how the whole ecosystem changes over hundreds of thousands of years.
And then if we go back to organic farming and organic growing, that's why you don't want to spray chemicals that you have to continuously use, right? Because you're killing the natural ecosystem, the natural defense system, right?
Yeah, well, it becomes dependent on us, right? It will always end up becoming dependent on us if we're the ones that have to put up a spray. But if we can allow nature to build up its system, it's going to take care of itself. Now, that might mean death to your plant. And in all seriousness, because maybe the soil's not adapted for that plant at all. And if you see death keep happening to your plant, that's a major lesson, like, okay, something's really wrong. Let me go back to the basics.
If you found this video helpful, hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe for more organic gardening tips straight from the pros. Happy gardening.